All week long, Fox 54 will be honoring veterans, and our Sedona Meadows spoke with a Vietnam veteran from Moulton who shares both the hardships of the war and the life he made after his return.
I didn't approve of the war, and I got my first draft notice when I was 18, still in high school. But I got a deferment, and they put it off till I was 20. So I got drafted first day of July in 1970. Went to boot camp at Fort Knox, Kentucky for 8 weeks. From there to Fort Polk, Louisiana for another 8 weeks. First day of December of 70, I was in Vietnam.
Sergeant Matthias Letson is a U.S. Army veteran of the Vietnam War.
I hated to go, but at the same time, you know, I felt pride in my country.
By the age of 20, he was on his way to basic training.
I got drafted here in Moulton, there right around the courthouse.
Letson's boot camp was first in Fort Knox, Kentucky, then Fort Polk, Louisiana.
It wasn't something, you know, that I couldn't handle, but at the same time, it wasn't easy.
After that, his tour of duty began.
Before we got into Vietnam, they had all the lights turned out. And as we going into Benoit, you see firefights going on all around from a distance. And when we got off the plane, we got on the bus, and it had chicken wire around the windows to keep the grenades coming in. So, you know, I was scared.
Letson was participating in active ground combat and serving in the Delta.
I had to go in the tunnels and spider holes, check out for a VC. And that was scary, you know. Go in with a flashlight and a pistol. It's, you know, it was traumatic.
He says there's one memory on Chu Lai Mountain he can never forget.
Our allies was trying to go up the mountain, and they were getting shot at. With a helicopter, our platoon up on top of the mountain, come in from behind the enemy. Luckily, we didn't run into the enemy, but we blowed their bunkers as was going down the mountain. And on the way down, there was 3 helicopters shot down with 4-man crews each. There's 12 Americans shot, killed, and 60 Arvins that was trying to go up the mountain. So that, just about that whole day, we had to carry the dead bodies down the mountain.
Letson spent about a year out there, and as most soldiers of war receive a celebrated homecoming, him and other soldiers of the Vietnam War were met with scorn.
We had to be escorted out of the airport because we would have been spit on, called baby killers.
Transitioning back to civilian life was difficult for him.
Even my mother was scared of me when I first came home, and that hurt.
And Letson didn't feel like there were resources available to help him after his arrival home. But he prides his high school sweetheart of 50 years for saving him.
Come home in December of 71, and I got married in February 72. And it had me hard on her because at that time, I was bad to drink. But she stuck by me. And thank God I don't drink and don't smoke anymore. So I have to give her credit for all that. There was a time or two that I'd wake up nightmares and whatever, and she had to calm me down. She took care of me.
Since then, his family has grown with 3 children and 10 grandchildren. Letson's son served in the Air Force for 20 years, and his grandson is currently serving in the Air Force.
I believe they were honoring me.
It took him several years before joining any organizations like American Legion Post 25.
So looking at your life now, are you happy?
Yeah. And these organizations keep me going too. They sort of understand what I went through.
Letson was recently greeted by another veteran with a welcome home, an affirmation he longed for the day he returned from war.
We're welcoming each other home, although it's been 50 years.
In Moulton, Sedona Meadows, Fox 54 News.
Wow, thank you, Sergeant Letson, for your service. Tomorrow we hear from one veteran who balanced being a mother and wife while serving in 3 combat tours.